Hi, everybody. Get the slide on. Hi, everybody. 1,205 days. 1,205 days. I think it's plus those days, plus some more days. We're still working on the timeline, and I think that's very, very important because we're getting new information every day, breaking news every day. And today, huge news coming out of Washington, D.C. And it just shows that all of the complaints that have been going in, not just from us, and we have put in a lot of them, we have put in a lot of them, but from so many other people, they're starting to pay off, and we're getting that institutional support that we all desire. We want something to be done, and it's so frustrating because they have to be driven to really do their duty, right? It's like, where's Veronica Escobar and all of this? Um, you know, they're so ready and anxious to get in front of a camera and try to campaign for their position, but to honor their position, to honor what they campaign about and all their lip service. Well, that's a whole different story, right? Because where is she? Where is she in all of this? Where has she been? We're getting new information every day, and she absolutely, knowing El Paso as well as she does, knows that 3705 and 3905 Bliss Avenue in El Paso, Texas, raises eyebrows because of all the connections that those two properties give the Find Richard Halliday timeline and the investigative, um, let's just say, big crumbs, and the morsel by morsel, um, the Hansel and Gretel method of Team Find Richard Halliday, where we're just looking for crumbs, any crumbs. Well, 3705 Bliss Avenue, 3905 Bliss Avenue, they're big crumbs. They're huge. And Veronica Escobar, representative Veronica Escobar, who has oversight of Fort Bliss and absolutely knows El Paso, understands the implications of those two properties because of just the ownership, just the connections, connecting Belen Rocha with Danae Katzen very clearly with Lydia Ortega Rocha and Tanya Katzen, um, Eddie Rocha, and many more, and even it looks like even a defense attorney um, is connected, you know, and some that are involved in a much bigger case, right? Uh, so it is very interesting. And where is Veronica Escobar? Where is Dirty Agent Veltri when we have um, these kinds of leads that show hard evidence, a connection between Belen Rocha, Danae Katzen, and then um, pulling together people's names out of old documents that you might forget. Uh, when you hear, oh, Richard has been exonerated, you might say, okay, well, then I can file that or I can shred it or whatever. Well, we didn't. And we're pulling those old documents out. We're looking at the names. We're deciphering some strange signatures. And lo and behold, it's very interesting where what that leads to, and what we suspect out of, we have dirty agents, but do we have dirty police? And do we have, yeah, it just seems like um, there is a huge conspiracy behind the code red of Richard. And I wish I could talk very, very confident on all of this like I feel very, very confident that there's this huge conspiracy behind Richard's Code Red, the retaliation against a whistleblower that the U.S. Army failed to protect. And that is huge. They failed to protect a whistleblower. And I know this from being a daughter of a 23-year Army veteran and being the wife of a 30-year Army veteran. So my whole life has been connected to the Army, okay? In the Army, living on post. I went to school on Fort Bliss. I lived on Shed Road on Fort Bliss. I lived on another road that I can't remember. I was just so small. And then I was born at White Sands Missile Range. I was one of the very few children ever born at White Sands Missile Range when they had a clinic there years ago in in the 60s. And so that shows my age. Um, and so I understand I have been living on military bases most of my life. Um, of course, living off base and uh, but in total connection with the military community. Of course, when you have 50 years, right, with the military. And then when Rob retired in 2006, uh, for family reasons, I got really, really sick, and we were going to move to Ireland full time, but I got very, very sick, and he got a job, um, a contract job, and we were then connected with the military still. So we understand the military, and the military has always told us, always, if you see something, say something. Stop fraud, waste, and abuse. If you see something, say something. Stop fraud, waste, and abuse. I know that by heart. I know it, because they say it all the time, at least when I was in connection, living very close with the military. And, you know, they fail to protect a whistleblower. And not only that, they conspired internally against him, okay? Because he pulled on a thread. And of course, it's about the 85,000 unaccounted for minors. Is it specifically about that? Well, the CPS could tell us, right? But they rather commit a crime by not answering our FOIA than to tell us the truth. They rather commit a crime. And so 85 unaccounted for minors are talking about that today in Washington, D.C. They're mentioning that a lot because where are they? Where are they? And you have Ann Ogle over the CYS there on Fort Bliss. She's the administrator, and she was very, very, very close to Thomas Kane. And, there were problems at the emergency intake center, a lot of problems, a lot of sexual assault, a lot of sexual harassment, a lot of problems over there at that emergency intake center. And it was her job to see to their well being, right? That's her job as the administrator. And so, you know, apparently, apparently, in a big way, hard evidence she failed her job, and there's 85,000 unaccounted for minors. And is she up in arms saying, wait a minute, like if one child goes missing, you'd I mean, have you ever I remember a story. I can tell you a story about one of my daughters. I was given a dish by my neighbor with some food in it, and the next day I wanted to take back the clean dish, right? And Allison was watching Pooh Bear or something like that. And I told her, I said, Allison, I'll be right back. I'm just going next door to give back the dish. When I got back, she was not there. She was not there watching the Pooh Bear. And I think it was Pooh Bear because that was one of her favorites. Um, and I went crazy. I just was like, oh my gosh. And we lived in townhouses. This was in Olney, Maryland. And I went out and I asked the people that were cutting the lawn and all that if they had seen a little girl, and they were like, no. And I after an hour, I called it was just, I had all the neighborhood looking for her and that. And my husband was like, well, go through the house carefully one more time. And I said, okay. And I went through our bedroom, and out of the corner of my eyes, I saw the pillow sham kind of move a little. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I went to the bed. She had crawled behind my pillow shams. The bed was perfectly made behind the pillow shams, underneath the pillows, and fell asleep. That's where she was. But the panic that you feel when you don't know, uh, you know, oh my gosh, where are they? They're in the clothes circles. You know how sometimes your kids, when you're shopping, they'll go in the clothes circle. So, you just feel so panicked. You want to make sure you have the eye on your child at all times. And um, yeah, so we have 85,000 missing minors from the emergency intake center. And where is the uproar, the panic? I mean, you're talking about 85,000 of these human beings, right? Human beings, where are they? I mean, for our own child, one child, we panic. Where is the panic for the 85? And it's the right kind of panic. It is the righteous panic to want to find these human beings, make sure that they're not mistreated, make sure they're not sold in slavery, make sure they're not being sexually abused or sexually assaulted, make sure that they're not being killed, right? Killed for, people are saying, they want to kill these young people, right? And I don't even want to talk about why. It's so terrible. So this is a possible um, crime, absolutely a crime uh, that Richard could have been whistleblowing on. Also, we're getting that because of the CPS complaints, we know for sure that he made CPS complaints, Child Protective Service complaints. We know for sure that he had um, sex videos that he turned in. Sex videos that he turned in. So, um, uh, absolutely, he was whistleblowing on the sexual cult atmosphere that, 14-year-old girl living in the barracks, being pimped out, two soldiers every night. And, how many? How many? That is, can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's so terrible. It's so terrible. That was going on Fort Bliss. That was also going on at Camp Pendleton, and people send me stuff all the time. And now, let me see if I have it, because I put it up here, And I think it's really important. Here we go. Yeah. Let me see if I can. Maybe I can't do it. Let's see. Okay, let's see.
This commercial sex ring was built on secrecy and exclusivity, catering to a wealthy and well-connected clientele, and business was booming until today. It's alleged that the prospective sex buyers in this scheme first had to respond to a survey and provide information online, including their driver's license photos, their employer information, credit card information, and they often paid a monthly fee to be part of this illicit club. The affidavit that's unsealed in court today alleges that once the buyers were verified, they were then texted and allowed to place orders with commercial sex workers. They would choose the duration of this encounter they wanted, the types of services they wanted, and they also would receive a menu of different options and different women that they could purchase, sometimes at rates between $350 and $600 an hour. The menu included photographs of the various women who were available that day. And the defendants then directed the sex buyers to various apartments in Watertown and Cambridge in Virginia where they engaged in commercial sex. According to the charging documents, the buyers who made up this ring hail from an array of professions. They are doctors, they are lawyers, they're accountants, they're elected officials, they are executives at high-tech companies and pharmaceutical companies. They're military officers, government contractors, professors, scientists.
Okay, so they are military officers. That was what I wanted to point out. And and that's not a shocking breaking news from the Department of Justice, after 3 years of investigating, what happened. Where's Richard, right? Where's Richard? That's not shocking because we have been subjected to this sex cult culture through vile, vulgar messages, the smear campaign on Richard, and of course, the life of certain suspects in this case, are just kind of like, okay, this is what they want to protect. This is what they want to move forward, because if you're protecting this sex cult culture, that's what's going to grow. That's what's going to flourish in our society. And I'm wondering, why are they doing this? And, you have 85,000 unaccounted for minors. How many of those girls wound up in Cambridge, right? Because the human trafficking is mostly all women, right? But of course, there's children involved because Richard called the Child Protective Services. And I know in our family, his sister said, Mom, if they're going to do this, Richard probably wouldn't say anything. If they're doing this, they probably wouldn't say anything. But if they're doing things to children, absolutely, he would become a whistleblower. So, that was the first response when we found out that he was a whistleblower. Absolutely, to CPS. But I think it goes further because of the evidence that we are getting from our well, let's just say the inner city, the inner circle, and out of Fort Bliss, and there is weapons trafficking going on, right? Because and that is corroborated by the stage task force find Richard Halliday. There's always some truth that comes out of a bunch of lies, right? And of course, that staged task force find Richard Halliday was a bunch of lies because there was no operational order, so it was not a task force. but it was a meeting, and the meeting did include, because you have to stage it, right? You have to stage it and try to make it look, it's all about optics, right? The optics to do a psyop, a psychological operation on the family, because it was all staged for us. And I think also for the law enforcement community, because I think they had a meeting beforehand or whatever. And we know that the law enforcement community was being lied to about Richard, just like we were being lied to. So I don't, when I'm talking about dirty agent Marlon Soto, I'm not talking about all agents. When I'm talking about convicted criminal Lalani Hart that's controlling Fort Bliss, I'm not talking about all the people on Fort Bliss. When I'm talking about dirty agent Tavita Nusa giving unauthorized access to Richard's file, to tamper with his file, to tamper with evidence like videos, and to get rid of videos, and then to talk about bodily harm. I'm not talking about uh, all of the law enforcement community. When I'm talking about the director of emergency services, Thomas Kane, saying that the JAG is operating outside of the law, I'm not talking about everyone in JAG. He's not talking about everyone in JAG. He's talking about the leadership that is fomenting a culture that's uh, inside the JAG, that is demanding from the JAG officers that they operate outside of the law. And comparing Richard's case to Vanessa Guillen's case of a dismembered soldier, um, you know, we're not talking about everyone in the Department of Emergency Services being crooked. Um, you know, we're just talking about Thomas Kane because even though he gave us all this information, he's absolutely implicated himself in this because he didn't do it the right way. He didn't do it the right way. He should have absolutely reached out to us. He probably was at the meeting. I think he was at the meeting at the task force find Richard Halliday. He needed to tell us what he knows. He knows a lot about Richard because he controlled all the CCTV footage, and we know that that was tampered with. And so, allegedly, but it's over and over and over again that we've been told these things, and it's just like to give us um, confusion about platoon leaders. We're not saying all platoon leaders are, you know, involved in Richard's case. We're talking about Dallas Hart, right? And all of this, oh no, he couldn't be. Well, where is that first lieutenant platoon leader? Where is he? If it's not Dallas Hart, then where is the platoon leader, right? Because we were kept from Richard's unit. We never met David Park. We never met First Sergeant Ruggiero or First Sergeant Jay Paulin. We never met them. They were kept from us. They did not come to us. They did not tell us what they knew. And of course, even Captain Yoshida, the crying captain, that was absolutely distraught when my husband first called him it, and that was the first red flags. We were like, this is not making any sense. He's telling us our son is a deserter and he's all a mess, so something else had happened to Richard. We absolutely knew that. And of course, Richard was never a deserter because he was never on the federal criminal database, and he's a yellow Interpol. So, what they were trying to, the narrative they were trying to put forth, that the media was parroting wrongfully, was not supported by the hard evidence. And so we've spent over 3 years going through circumstantial evidence, going through the irregularities, gathering hard evidence, and all of that information leads to a code red. And that's not our words, that's Leilani, convicted criminal Leilani Hart, the mother of First Lieutenant Dallas Hart. Remember that she's the mother of First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, who is the number one suspect. We have enough uh, irregularities, circumstantial evidence, and hard evidence to for a jury to convict him. You don't need. You saw that in Natalie Holloway's case. You don't need to have the remains. We want the remains of our son, but you don't need that to convict. And so we're just keep on collecting the information. And Dallas Hart is very interesting because how did he get where he was? Okay. Because the information coming into us out of New Mexico, Las Cruces, New Mexico State University, Las Cruces, um, and El Paso, and through, very early on, we had uh, witnesses um, that saw this computer person that wanted to get on the computer, other people's computer. Okay, and that was kind of odd for us too. They wanted to get on other people's computer, and I just think, that's kind of odd. And so this weapons trafficking, now, this is kind of breaking news, is coming back as like a falsification of military documents, which, is cooking the books, right? Cooking the books for this weapons trafficking, legalizing the theft. They want to cook the books so, you don't know, there's no trail in the weapon smuggling, which is an embezzlement. There, there's other details in that of embezzlement. And yeah, the more I wrap my head, I have to read it like 10 times to understand what they were doing that is so organized, organized theft. And I believe with Richard being the guidon bearer, and there not being any esprit de corps. And this is something when my dad was alive, and he was helping us try to find Richard, and us discussing all of our conversations with Richard. And he was very close to Richard, um, you know, because Richard was in an ADA and my dad was ADA. My dad was 32nd ADCOM like Richard. So they would talk about it. And one thing my dad kept saying to me was there was no esprit de corps. So something is really wrong. There's no esprit de corps, because of what was going on in the orderly room and what Richard had witnessed as a guidon bearer. The guidon is the flag for the unit, and Richard was honored to carry the guidon, but the unit was not honoring uh, their unit, by having esprit de corps, by honoring their standard, right? Their unit flag. And that really concerned my dad as a senior NCO, when he was in the military. That really concerned him because he said if there's no esprit de corps, there's a lot of problems in that unit. And Richard, of course, wanted to leave that unit. He asked for a transfer. He asked to voluntarily be deployed again. I mean, he wanted to get out of there. And so, and they could have, instead of murdering him, instead of retaliating against him, in my opinion, they could have, and I should get on my Facebook, I almost forgot. They could have transferred him. Um, but he saw something and he said something, and along with the narcotics trafficking, along with the CPS, the Child Protective Service complaints, along with the weapons trafficking and the fraud, there was the falsification of military documents. I believe, computer, the digits, and which equaled embezzlement. This is some new information that we're getting that we need to look at, just like PI Phil Waters was telling us. These are the possibilities you need to look at as investigators. And so that was good advice, even though he's kind of a crooked PI, in my opinion, a very crooked PI. And, you um, yeah, and very disrespectful. I have to say that. But, and malicious. One of those people that try to talk sweet to you, let's say a prayer in front of your face, and then behind your back they'll go and stab you. That's a coward, isn't it? That's a coward. He's a coward. PI Phil Waters, the interrogator, he's a coward. Um, so, but he did, uh, even in that cowardly man, the fraction of a man, I would say a fraction of a man, there is that little bit that he gave us some good advice, and that is to put out those possibilities and investigate them. And so the possibilities, in this case, what Richard was whistleblowing on, has gotten very interesting, and showing why it was pulling on a string to higher ups, and that he was killed to protect the higher ups and um, their criminal enterprise there, right? That they had set up very prettily, because you have to have some help in HRC, right? Um, HRC, Human Resources, they have to, determine who is going to be the general, who's going to be the colonel, who's going to be the lieutenant colonel, who's going to be the captain, who's going to be the platoon leader for Delta Battery 143, who's going to be there, and more. So, you know, that whole Fort Bliss, that was really organized. I'm sure it took some doing to organize it, and Richard threatened it. When you have your people in the VA, and you have your people in Park University, and you have your people in the DES, the Director of Emergency Services Office, um, Thomas Kane and others, um, which is also getting interesting. Uh, when you have people at the CYS, when you have people in the CPS, when you have people in the CID and the FBI, and you have people in the media, right? And you have people in the mortuary affairs, and you have people in the IG, and I know I'm forgetting, family services, right? Um, and you have them in their high position. You have them sitting on the board for uh, veterans disability benefits, which every veteran cares about. And that's a good way to control people. Uh, yeah, then, they have a sweet operation there. And that's why, because see, this is our question. We're not questioning that this is a huge operation to cover up the huge operation to murder Richard. That's not our question anymore, because all of our information leads us to believe that absolutely happened. There's no doubt in our minds that, just the reaction of General McConville, of Lieutenant General Donna Martin, um, and their dereliction, what happened to Brigadier General David Stewart. We saw it in front of our face, what happened to him. And, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe absolutely needs to, I mean, he's a bad, bad guy, y'all. He is so up to no good. And the SJA, oh my gosh, PP McGee, up to no good. It just horrible, 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 inhumane creatures, right? Um, and so, and then you have the CID in this case. I'm not joking. I'm German. I have to say it. They, we have instances that they're acting like Gestapo like. Gestapo like. I am not joking. Dirty Agent Veltri. Wow. Wow. Her little group, uh, you know, it is, so there's not a doubt in our mind that it's this huge, I shouldn't say huge, meaning, because it might seem like a lot of people, but it's not. It is just people in the right places, right? It is an organized HRC, um, putting the right people in the right job, the wrong people in the right job who are up to no good, to do these criminal activities. So you're just talking about a few people, but it's huge, meaning it covers all these different organizations and agencies. And so when you want to go to the CPS and complain, they've got their person there. When you want to go to the CID and complain, they have their person there. When you want to go to the DES and complain to the security of Fort Bliss about that is being violated, they've got their person there. If you want to go to the FBI, they've got their person there. If you want to go to the IG, they've got their person there, right? So you go to the VA, they've got their person there. But really, in all, it's like 10 people, right? I think it's more than that, but but it's just vast, meaning they cover all of the agencies and organizations. And so, you do have this lawlessness because of these few people. And that, uh, you know, and I want to make that really clear that the people that want a good military, that want a lawful military and esprit de corps, way outnumber the lawlessness. And so I just want to encourage everyone to, take hope in that, and comfort in that, and strength in that, to take a stand, like this active duty soldier that has requested a congressional inquiry. Back him up. Put in your own congressional inquiry, because it is lawless on Fort Bliss. And to support this soldier, you can sign our petition. The last time I looked, we had 322 signatures, and I'm determined to double that. Absolutely double that. I want to get to 1,000. Believe it or not, that's my personal goal, is to get 1,000 signatures. So if you have signed it, thank you very much. If you haven't, please sign it, and don't stop there. Campaign to support this soldier, because we outnumber. Don't, you know, I think to have this, um, to fall for the psyop, okay? I think that's the best way to say it. To fall for the psyop that they are so powerful and we could never win, right? They have 6 ways to Sunday to get even, the law enforcement, that you could never do it. They want you to fall for that because they're bullies. They're bullies, and they don't want you to know that you have power, that you have dominion power, and that you way outnumber them, and that they really truly are weak. Okay. And they're just bullies. They're just bullies. And so, this is where that institutional support is moved when the vast majority says we've had enough. We've had enough of our sons and daughters being attacked. And this is absolutely an attack on our military, because if they can do this to Richard, they've done it to others, because they were even bragging that they know how to do a psyop, that they know how to control the narrative. Yeah, how good they are. They were just, bragging about that. And, which is red flags for me. I'm like, okay, we're not talking about controlling a narrative. We're talking about my son, a human being. Where is he? Right? That's what we should be talking about. And so this whole falsification of military documents and this connection, this embezzlement, trillions of dollars are missing all the time from the Pentagon funds. And, so $1 trillion is a lot of money, y'all. It is so much money. I mean, $1 billion is so much money. And our brains can't even handle what that is and what that can buy and how much legal theft is happening to our country. And so we complain about monies being given out to other countries and everything. But what about the monies that are being embezzled and being unlawfully taken by, these criminal syndicates right from our own, right on our own soil? And, there is so much. Oh my gosh, it's so huge. Um, and, to be made aware of that, okay, so we're putting ourselves at risk. But, uh, you know, I'm sorry. I rather help other countries. I rather help our families. I rather have clean roads. We could do all of that with the money that is wasted and stolen and everything through the Pentagon. Okay, we could have good roads, we could have good bridges, we could give money to other people, we could, help our families, we could have cheap housing, we could have, I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars, y'all. I mean, it is huge, huge. So this legalized crime that they don't get called out for, and it is legalized theft. It is crime. Okay. And I say legalized, it's uh, because they're organized. They're organized and they do this paperwork and they cover it up and whatever. They play on the computer, right? They play on the computer um, and cover their tracks and get away with it. So, yeah, I think Richard's pretty clever with that kind of stuff himself, not with the theft, but with the computer. So if he was seeing the books being cooked, if he was seeing the children disappearing from the emergency intake center, using military transportation and everything, if he was seeing, because these tactical move storage units, what were they transporting? Were they transporting narcotics? No, the narcotics is coming back. Maybe it was, a good round trip. But is it humans? Is it narcotics? Is it weapons smuggling? What is it? Because we know, not me, we know in Washington, they're all talking about it, that that is happening, right? That is happening. And so much so that a movie was made that claimed to be a truthful story where the children are being trafficked using tactical move storage units. And that is The Sound of Freedom, right? The Sound of Freedom. Um, and so, but absolutely, if you have equipment, you're right there on the border. You can cook the books, take that equipment, and fit it in there with it. You know, that wasn't an empty tactical move storage unit in that movie, was it? It had boxes and stuff in it. What was in there? What were they trafficking? What were they embezzling? What were they? Um, what's the word? The weapons smuggling. What were they smuggling? So yeah, I know. And we're at 12:24 at night. I'm doing this late at night. Um, yeah, we're burning the midnight oil. So, this is we know, we know that a huge crime was committed. And so we're looking at, and this is the title from yesterday and today, at Richard's abduction. And the abduction is our question is because Richard was telling me constantly, I can't leave, Mom, I'll get in trouble. I can't leave. I'm like, what do you mean? This is before COVID really got strict. It just confused me that he was like, no, I can't leave. I can't leave my room. I can't do anything because I'll get in trouble. He was afraid for his life. That's what he was telling me. Because he was saying things are so bad. They're so bad. Okay. And then he would say, no, I can't leave. I can't leave my room. And, and I know that he was being retaliated against. I know that he was being harassed. I know he was being bullied. I know all of that now. I didn't know that then. Um, so, but I think that he feared for his life. It was getting so bad. And so the soldier, we've been told, a soldier, when we were there, came up to us and told us that they dragged Richard out of his room. And the story that he told was that they were ordered to do that, right? That they were ordered to do that. So they arrested Richard and he went unwillingly. It was a forced removal out of his room. And we didn't know what to think about that, right? And now we're getting more information that corroborates that he was forcefully removed, that this is an abduction, that they legalize, right? They legalize it. They put a guise on it. Okay, we're here. We're here to keep you safe, right? Yeah, right. We're here to protect you. Yeah, right. This is a whistleblower, and we're going to. We need you to come and talk to Major General Clem Coward, right? We need you to talk to him. No, I'm not going. he he's got it in for me, because Richard absolutely knew by then that he was exonerated, and he knew when they gave him the Gomar, when Clem Coward gave him the Gomar, that was a setup on top of the setup, right? It was retaliation on top of a retaliation. And the chaptering was a retaliation upon a retaliation upon a retaliation. They kept getting more and more severe, continuously, severely retaliatory. And so, he refused. This is what the soldier said. He refused to leave. They had to forcefully remove him from his room. So, this is an abduction. And we know the name of the soldier that told us this, and it's an abduction. So we're looking into more about this day, more about this soldier, more about this witness testimony. And as we research this, Jay Pollin's name came up, right? Jay Pollin's name came up. Jay Pollin, if you don't know who Jay Pollin is, um, he came on the scene very early, very early. The first one after Yoshida, he was the first one on the scene as far as contacting, um, being in contact with us, contacting not us at the very beginning, but the way he got onto the scene is he was on the NCO forums. And on the NCO forums, he put out a lengthy, very lengthy post about our son and telling the NCOs, well, you've heard about Vanessa Guillen. Well, this isn't that, right? This ain't that. Um, this is not that. That's what he said. And we're like, and it was lengthy. It was all about Richard, and I've posted it. You can read the whole thing. And so we contacted him to get more information because he was Richard's former first sergeant. Well, now with this abduction um, investigation, his name comes up again, right? And you have to know that you can read what he wrote and more. He kept writing more, but he was very involved at the beginning. Once we got to Fort Bliss, and he was still involved even when we were in Fort Bliss. Once we got to Fort Bliss and we were doing our rallies every day, 4 to 6 rallies a week, right? Unless the weather was bad, but 4 to 6 rallies a week. Um, he never came, not once, not once in all those months did he come to one of our rallies. And he was, so the narratives that he was feeding us, we knew from the very beginning the narrative to the NCOs we thought was also had a lot of red flags in it. And all of the talk that he did had a lot of red flags. We knew that something stunk. And so this whole abduction um, is really bringing Jay Pollan into the light again. Of course, all roads lead to Leilani Hart, right? All roads lead to the convicted criminal, the one that likes to lie to law enforcement, and her very troubled family life protecting her troubled son, Dallas Hart. And, because according to her, that's not according to me, according to her, they sexually assaulted multiple members of her family, sexually assaulted her friend's little boy, 7 years old, in her master bedroom. Multiple members of her family. And, her husband being a pedophile, predator, buying weapons illegally. It always comes back to these weapons. We know that the weapons were flush in the barracks. We know that a lot of them were unregistered. We know that that problem kept going because that must be one of their, uh, their money makers, right? Is this weapon smuggling? Because you have one case after the other. Not me saying it. It's just hard evidence. One case after the other of a weapons problem in the barracks. There's weapons problems in the barracks. That's not me. That's what Fort Bliss is saying. That's what is happening there. That's what Brigadier General John Stewart said. That is what Dirty Agent Marlon Soto said. That is what this colonel um, of the Bulldogs said. There were so much problems that he had to offer them immunity, um, you know, uh, just to hand over their unauthorized weapons, right? And this is in this year, 2023. So, yeah, there is this connection with the crimes around Richard the abduction of Richard, the murder of Richard, um, the cover up of Richard, that is connected to Jay Paulin, okay, and to Dallas Hart. And of course, all roads lead to convicted criminal uh, Leilani Hart, who was bragging that she runs Fort Bliss CID. So, because, her boyfriend was Tavita Nusa, special agent, he lost his badge, um, former agent uh, Tavita Nusa. So, and also, in our opinion, he's very involved in the alleged abduction and murder of our son and the movement of the remains. There seems to be a coordinated, movement of the remains. They knew what had happened, um, and they had second thoughts, or they had to organize themselves. They had to gather themselves together to move the remains. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of the reports of the remains being in these different locations and the autopsy reports that we have, um, uh, the information from those autopsy reports that we have, that we can't get Dr. Marlon um, Ortiz to acknowledge or answer to, or even the military. They still, where is Dirty Agent Veltri on all of this to even calm our thoughts with these autopsy reports that we handed in, right? Um, three of them, one being El Paso, one being Fort Bliss, and one being Semico in Juarez, Mexico. So, this makes this an international case on top of that. So, there has been a huge cover up. We do not have a doubt in our mind. I can say that all of this is our opinion, right? Um, we have to say that legally, it's our opinion, but we have hard evidence, we have circumstantial evidence, we have irregularities that absolutely point to this being an internal code red of the highest. I mean, I'm talking so involved, with so much money involved, to do this, and so much so that they are keeping our son's death and our son's remains from us. And I think that is just horrible. And we've been so nice, right? We have been so nice. When you think of Major General Donna Martin and our connection with her, and she's IG, she was rewarded for this garbage. She was rewarded for this garbage to be the Inspector General of the Army. So, she's dirty. She's dirtier than Veltri and Marlon put together. So yeah, I just uh, and we're in the process of putting a complaint in for her also. So it's Veltri, it's Marlon, it's so many others, Dallas, it's Lilani, it's all of these people. Um, we'll just keep on putting our complaints and complaints and complaints in, and that's how you get justice for Richard. So just your signature on that, you might think, oh, it doesn't matter. It does matter. The signature on the petition, writing letters to Congress, letting them know that you're there, because, the opposing side, they write their letters. We need to start writing our letters. We need to start demanding justice for Richard and other cases. So, I just want to say thank you so much for your support. So let me read some of this. Oh yeah, when he stated Richard can dig a foxhole, and more evil statements and psyops has always stuck with me, as if he was playing a part. Just my opinion. He is evil. Oh yeah, and he was really sowing a narrative, right? He was really sowing a narrative, um, instead of coming and meeting with us and talking with us in private, he was going on to forums to put forth a narrative. Okay. So, what was his job after he retired? Was he in law enforcement? Was he some kind of investigator? Was he assigned to the case to put these false narratives out? This is what we're investigating. He's suspect in his dealings after he got out of the military. Why did he get out of the military, right? Why did he leave? Did he just retire? Did he want to retire? Was that the case, or was this a forced retirement? Was this, part of Richard's whistleblowing? Did he get caught into something? Has he been, um, has he made a plea deal at all? Has he been convicted of anything? Has he been charged with anything? We would like to know. This is really, really important because his name keeps coming back up, and he absolutely, like Belen Rocha, played a role early on, and like Danae Katzen. And to know that Danae Katzen and Belen Rocha and their Tanya Katzen and Cesar Gonzalez and Eddie Rocha and Lydia Rocha and those houses 3705 Bliss and 3905, that's really important, 3905 Bliss Avenue, to know that they are all connected. And then to go and look at the cop, the canine cop, Jesus Melendez, and does he have a connection with the Rochas, right? Does he know them by these addresses? Are they good friends from early on? That is the question, too. Um, does he know the Katzens, right? Uh, you know, that exactly. And who were the accusers of Richard? It seems like this defense attorney is crooked. That this is my opinion here. I believe that there is a good chance that I have to entertain the idea that a defense attorney in El Paso, Texas was involved in our son's case by setting up a legal structure of witnesses or accusers that were false. Okay? Just like this DUI setup, do they set up to an organized extent a legal structure to legalize their theft, to legalize their criminal syndicate? Do we have lawyers that maybe pay bribes out, right, for people to say things, to be witnesses that they're lying? Oh yeah, we saw Richard. Oh yeah, we were there, or we saw this, or what. Do they organize witnesses, pay them to say certain things? And the what got us started is this DUI, that whole packet that we have. It's like, okay, all Judge Alma Trejo um, didn't buy it. Said no, there is no evidence, and that means that the accusers were discredited. Okay? If she's saying there's no evidence and we need to have an agreement for dismissal, that means the accusers that are in that packet are discredited. They're discredited. They cannot be trusted. That's to us. We have to entertain that. So, who put them there? Who put them up to doing the accusation? Who are these people lying to authorities? I'm telling you, this is like a training ground for Leilani Hart. She's the teacher, and it seems like they have taken her spirit um, by lying to law enforcement authorities, right? So she has a history of lying to law enforcement authorities. Well, the DUI DWI packet shows that there is suspect enough to investigate those that made accusations that the judge threw out. So if the judge threw them out as non evidence, then what were they? What were they? They were false witnesses. That's what they were. And why would they do a false witness against Richard? For retaliation, or someone paid them, right? So this is what we're looking at. And if that happened, then of course, you know, the abduction, the murder, they were just absolutely after him. So he pulled on a string enough for the upper echelon to call for his to call for his code red. That's what that is. So that's my opinion, and we are going to uncover it. We're going to uncover it, and so Jay Pollen is definitely coming up. This Jesus Melendez, if anyone knows this canine police officer, um, let him know that something is not right. Something is not right. And we're talking about a young man losing his life, and Veronica Escobar. Where is she? Where is she? Why isn't she demanding for the protection of our service members, especially whistleblowers, right? Where is she? I don't know what the heck she's doing. I don't know. So she should be on this, and so should Senator Cruz, right? He should buck the Secretary of the Army because he has more rank than the Secretary of the Army. I don't know if he knows that. I think he does, but he has, he's much smarter than I am. Um, I'm not saying that he's a good guy. I'm saying that he knows the system, and he absolutely should be advocating for Richard if he was to protect our military installations. And, so he needs to put his actions where his mouth is. And the same thing with Veronica, right? And they have this inquiry, this congressional inquiry now, and they need to bring that to the forefront and ask the questions that are so necessary and get the answers. And then we don't have to go through this because we'll have the answers of what happened to our son. So, yeah, thank you so much on that. Okay, so everybody, thank you so much. I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And I just want to say thank you so much. Please share, share, share. And Rob says, don't forget, tell them we love you. We love you for sticking with us for so long for our son's sake. Thank you so much.